Well, I'm delighted to say that joining me on the Godcast today is Gordon Birtwistle. Gordon is a Liberal Democrat politician in Burnley. He was the Member of Parliament for Burnley from May 2010 to 2015, and he's standing again this year for the Lib Dems at the general election. Gordon, it's great to get you on the Godcast. How are you doing?
Great to be here. Thank you very much. Hey, yeah, I'm good.
Gordon, it is brilliant to get you on. We've known each other a little while. The first question I've got for you, are you mad?
Probably. No, I don't think I am. I look around Burnley and I see the deprivation and the way that the town is going and the way that people are living in houses that basically 80 years ago I was brought up in a two down rat infested slum. And I never believed in those days that those places would still exist. And I have to say, Alex, they do, in numbers of hundreds, not in the odd one on the street. And that keeps me fired up. It really does. And what's happened to the health service and people who are spending hours on trolleys in Blackburn Hospital, people that can't get an appointment with a GP for 4 weeks, elderly people who are sat at home desperately trying to get through to a GP. These are the things that fired me up to do this again.
When people maybe from outside of Burnley listen to this, Gordon, and say, gosh, there's rat infested streets, why do you think that is in 2024? What's your kind of root cause analysis of why that's happening?
Well, there's been no major investments in Burnley for many years. We had the Elevate programme going back to 2008 when I was the council leader, which improved vast numbers of streets, but we have vast numbers of streets that are still built, were built in the Victorian times, terrace properties that really are not fit for use anymore, but people are having to live in them. And it's just a poverty around the area where people don't have the money anymore, and they're living in properties that children at night are sleeping in rooms that are damp, wet, the beds are wet, and that's wrong. That shouldn't be allowed. But these properties were built in the times when rats ran from one house to another, ran through the cot lofts and places like that. I mean, modern day housing doesn't have this. They're built in the environment where these things don't happen, but we still have these properties, unfortunately. Invariably, they're owned by landlords who charge pretty high rents to live there, and there are some private ownership, but the majority of them are private landlords.
And Gordon, we've been on the campaign trail just a few days. We're a few weeks as we record this. The election, we're in end of May, and the general election is in July. What's the early thing that you're picking up from people? What are people saying to you as you've been walking around? I know you launched in Burnley at the weekend. What are people saying to you?
Well, I have to say there's not a lot of interest. There's nobody brimming over to dash to the polling station and cast a vote at the moment. They basically think that we've got a Tory government that basically has completely lost control, but we've got a Labour Party that really hasn't got any policies to follow on. I mean, I say we've got blue Tories and red Tories, and you look at the manifestos, and if the Tories aren't here, they haven't given us any investment, any money, or the Labour Party going to give us any money, and that's a big concern for people. They say to me, "How are you different than anybody else?" I say, "Well, I'm the local guy. I will go to Parliament and I will fight for my town, like I did before. I fought for the A&E then that the Labour Party closed, and I got it back not in a major form, but in a good form. Unfortunately, that's now dwindled down to be nothing more than a sticking plaster office, and I want it back. A town like Burnley and Pendle and Rossendale, we're big enough to have our own A&E, so we need to get it back. And people are horrified that they can't get an appointment to see a GP. They ring up, elderly people are ringing up and saying, "I'm not well, can I come and see you?" And they say, "No, you can come in 3 weeks' time." This is outrageous, and this is what people are saying to me. We want somebody who will go and fight for us in London, and that's what I will do.
Yeah, and people, I think people will be clear, Gordon, that you're very well known, you're a very well respected person in Burnley. I've got the utmost respect for you. But what you said there about the Conservatives and the Labour, could that be thrown at the Liberals as well? I mean, I have to be honest, I've got a real apathy towards the general election, you know, for my own reasons. But I couldn't tell you now what the Liberal Democrats stand for. What is the modern day Liberal Democrat Party all about, Gordon?
Well, the modern day Liberal Democrat Party is a moderate, slightly left of centre political party who believe in reform, who believe in people having a good life, a decent life, and people are looked after. Where the services of the country that we provide are provided efficiently. I mean, we pay our taxes to have a health service. The health service is in total collapse. Why has that happened? But we are spending billions of pounds on things we don't need. I'll give you an example. There are houses up on Belvedere Road and Leyland Road that are in desperate need of renovation. Yet the government give us £8 million to renovate a road that goes from the town to the turf. They've spent more money there on paving stones, nearly £7 million on paving stones. What could we have done with that money by spending that on a few houses to make them habitable, where children don't have to sleep in a damp room with damp bedding? That is what I believe Liberal Democrats are about.
Yeah, I'm glad you bring that up, Gordon, because it's definitely it's been a hobby horse of mine, and I've spoken about it. And my understanding of the situation in Burnley with the pedestrianisation from Turf Moor down to the town centre, there's a couple of things that really grind my gears. One is the where that money has come from, and my understanding is that money has come from the levelling up agenda, and people, when you challenge that, people say, well, that's ring fenced. That's ring fenced. But when we talk about levelling up, there is the aesthetic of a place, isn't there? But there's actually the reality of what's going on. And you started very passionately, Gordon. We've been talking, what, 5-10 minutes? And you've highlighted some of the key issues in our politics, some of the key problems that stop people's lives improving. And I want to know what you think's happened in politics over the years to allow that to be, Gordon. I mean, I can't disagree with anything you've said. I don't support any political party, but I do see those people and those places that you talk about, and I often ask myself, why and how is the pedestrianisation taking precedent over people's lives? And also the second thing about that is just the sheer length of time that it's taken, the productivity and the capacity to get that job done is it's a laughing stock, isn't it? People are making a mocker of it across the town. Just a few of your thoughts on that, Gordon.
Well, this money came as I think it was a 25 million package for levelling up from the government. I mean, I've asked people around the town, do they feel levelled up? Do they feel like Michael Gove's constituency? He was the minister. He's provided this money so that people in Burnley feel levelled up to his constituency. And I haven't found one person that feels levelled up to the constituency of Michael Gove, the swish, the tree-lined houses and that in Surrey East. To me, the money should have been spent on what we need. I accept and I agree with part of the money being spent on renovating Newtown Mill, because that needed doing, and that's going to be, I understand, an engineering faculty for the University of Central Lancashire, an engineering faculty that we definitely need. We need engineers. We are an engineering town. We are desperate for skilled engineers. So that's great to spend the money on that. But to spend what started off at £7 million, goodness knows what the price is now. It must be running a year late. So what it's cost, what the end price will be for this, I don't know. But I can't see. I would have rather spent the money on improving the lives of the people that live in the area where this road goes through. I mean, Leyland Road and Belvedere Road really do need some investment. And this fancy road goes through it. And who's going to use the road? I mean, it used to be a nice wide road. Now it's a very, very narrow road. At the moment, it's one way. We've got pavements at twice the width of the road. And I'm told, well, it was to service the Premier League football team. Well, hang on a minute. The Premier League football team haven't contributed anything, and they're no longer a Premier League football team. So what was the reason for spending all this money on that when we have parts of the town where children are sleeping in wet beds?
Yeah.
Now that grinds my gears, to use your terminology.
And to dig down into some of that issues around poverty, Gordon, you know, what I think creates an apathy amongst people around politicians is this soundbite. You know, anybody can say anything, can't they? You can say anything. And Gordon, you've worked in Burnley for years, and you've worked in politics for years. And I've lived in Burnley all my life, and I've never known Burnley not to have poverty. I remember Trafalgar Flats. I remember the Bleak House riots. What needs to happen? What needs to change in politics for people to have a different outcome, where actually matters of poverty and insecurity and fear and standard of living becomes the priority over things like pavements? What needs to happen?
Well, I think politicians need to live in the real world to start with. I mean, I've been on the Burnley Council now 41 years, and I remember the Trafalgar Flats well. I remember Bleak House well, when we sold all the houses off for £10 each. Now we have a nice housing estate up there. That was a good deal. It sounded a bad deal at the time, but it was a good deal. But I think politicians in the main get elected to Parliament, and that becomes a job then. And sometimes you don't even see them again. They just operate down in London. Politicians, to me, are the real politicians who work for the people, or people that's committed themselves to the town for years before they become a politician. And I mean, that I've done that. I mean, I've been a councillor, as I say, for 41 years. I've represented Colclough and Deerpley for all that time. I've worked hard in the area. We sort out the things that local councillors do. We sort out rubbish in the streets. I mean, my ward's as tidy as any other ward. But what also gets to me, we are now building brand new houses all around my ward, all in the green fields. All the nice green fields have been taken over by houses costing 3, 4, and in some cases £500,000. The people that live in the centre of town, they couldn't even dream of raising 0.5% of the deposit to move into these properties. So I know it's good for the town to have houses all around the perimeter and get some of the people that may want to work in Burnley and live in Burnley, or work in Manchester and live in Burnley. That's great. But we can't forget the people that are living in poverty. And we have a vast number of that. I can show you photographs of children's beds in wet bedrooms where the wallpaper's hanging off the wall. In one case, the ceiling fell down on one little girl, and they're expected to live there and pay £600 a month rent. This, to me, it's going back to Dickens' times. This is not acceptable. And I believe that what I want to see is a major investment in housing. I've asked for, when we had the Elevate Fund, we got a large lump sum to be spent over a number of years. I'm asking in my campaign for £100 million to be spent over 10 years in parts of Burnley to regenerate the housing situation there, and houses that are not fit to repair to be demolished, but rebuilt by housing associations who will rent them to people on reasonable rents, not build £500,000 houses that nobody can afford to live in. So that's what I want. I want, like Calico or other housing associations, building like they have in my ward, in Colclough. They built 96 houses there, new houses, really smart houses, but they charge a proper affordable rent because they're in this housing association. They're not being ripped off with private landlords. So the investment must come into Burnley to ensure this goes. And if we do that, health starts with where you live. If you sleep in a damp bed, you'll be ill. And that puts pressure on the NHS. It puts pressure onto the doctors. I spoke to doctors and they tell me this. If they live in decent conditions, the health of the people is better. The NHS doesn't have the pressure. The GPs don't have the pressure. And we live in a better town. People get on better. We don't fall out. And that is what I want to happen.
Yeah. Gordon, I recently spoke to the Chief Operating Officer of Burnley Council, and he said it doesn't really matter who's in charge. There's no money.
Absolutely, I agree with you.
How do you go about squaring that circle?
Well, when I was the MP last time, there was no money, but I got £41 million for the hospital because there is money. It's how the money is distributed and how the money is spent. The government, we are supposed to be one of the richest countries in the world. All right, I accept that the debt is now over £2.5 trillion, but at the end of the day, the government have to prioritise how they spend the money, and if they need to borrow money to invest, which I think investing in people's houses will invest in the health of the people, will improve the lifestyles of the people, and I believe that's the right way to invest, not invest in crazy schemes that like building a road from the town to the turf, investing in the future lifestyles of people that live here.
Yeah. Gordon, I want to ask you a little bit about faith. I know you're a man of faith.
I am.
And don't want to dig too deep into your private life, but I do want to ask if it's fair that faith and politics mix. Do you think that's a good thing? I mean, I've spoken to some senior politicians on the Godcast who prefer not to talk about their faith, even though they have one. Tim Farron, leader of the Libs,
I know him very well.
is a well-known Christian person, but I understand he stood down from his role because it compromised his Christian ethics. What's your view on that, Gordon?
Well, I'm a Christian. I go to Father Roger's church at St Catherine's, maybe not often enough, but I do go there. I think you know Father Roger very well. I think politics and Christianity have to go together. I mean, where did it all start? I mean, Jesus, he was the start of it all, or long before that, but in religious terms, he was the start of it all. And he believed that people should live in peace and together. I'm happy to mix my religion. I mean, in Parliament on a Wednesday before PMQs, there is a service on the church that's underneath in the church, the Church of the Undercroft, and they do a half-an-hour communion service before PMQs. And I used to go there because it was peace, you could think. But then I went to listen to PMQs and thought, what the dickens is going on? All that people ever wanted to do was have a go at the others. Why don't they get together and try, if possible, to agree on something? Some, doesn't matter what political party you represent, some have good ideas, some have bad ideas. Why don't we support all the good ideas and forget the crazy ideas? And that relates to Burnley Council, which I've been on for many years, and that relates to Parliament. I think it's important that we get on together, work together to deliver the things that the people who elect us want.
Yeah. Gordon, do you think it's all turned into a bit of a popularity contest? I mean, I enjoy doing this Godcast podcast. One of the reasons is, and people seem to enjoy it because it gives them an opportunity to speak. It gives people an opportunity to hear people's views and opinions. But generally in the election, the way that the digital 24/7 media runs is people get 2 or 3 minutes to make a sound bite or two about their politics and their policies, and it almost becomes like X Factor, doesn't it? Who do you like the best? I'm interested to know, in your campaign, are you presented with many opportunities where you can sit down and have a conversation like this, where you can tell people what you think, what you believe, what your vision is? Or is most of the stuff that you're invited to kind of these quick 1 minute, 2 minute sessions where people want to hear what you say very quickly?
Well, it's the first time I've been invited to this in this election. I wasn't invited to it in the last election, and I suppose podcasts going back before it didn't exist. I'm still like what you would class as an old-fashioned compere. I go out every day, banging on doors, talking to people about the real issues. Now, I'm told by my advisors that those days don't exist no more. What you've got to do it on social media. So we've jumped on the bandwagon of doing social media. I do Facebook, I do all the things that go with it, and I'm advised on what should put in it and what we shouldn't. But what really Sails my boat is going round, knocking on people's doors and talking to them on the doorstep. And after we finish doing this today, if it stops raining, I'll be out this afternoon knocking on doors. And I'm doing certain ones in certain. I can't go around 47,000 houses, but I will go around certain parts of certain areas to find out what the feeling is of the area, what the issues are in the area. I mean, we're putting a leaflet out. You know, that's old-fashioned. No, it isn't. That is it. That's the old way of doing it, and I believe the right way of doing it. Because how can I expect somebody to vote for me if I've never knocked on the door and explained to what I've said? They can read a leaflet and say that, but they can't really point at me and say, as you are doing. So how are you going to do that, Gordon? So I can explain how I'm going to do it.
I think it's an important point. It's an important point, Gordon. I mean, Matt, I've got a family of young people here and who are generally utterly disengaged with politics. And, you know, the general feeling is they say, well, people can't even be bothered to put a leaflet through the door. So why should I be bothered to go and vote for them? There is.
I agree with them.
Yeah.
I'll come and knock on your door. Where do they live?
Gordon, what's your hope and expectation for this general election? Are you hopeful that you might be voted in as the next member of parliament?
I am. I think it's going to be tight. I still think it's going to be a three-horse race. I mean, I've been around for a long, long time, as you've said. Many people know me, and they know what I do, what I say I'll do. Mainly, I will do. Obviously, the Labour candidate is coming in from Manchester. Not many people know him. And unfortunately, Anthony Higginbottom, I think he's a decent guy, but I think he's got tarred with the brush of the Tory party. So I think he will suffer for that reason. But I think it's a three-way thing. There's obviously a major issue with Gaza, with the Labour, all the Labour Party, all jumping ship, and the majority of them said they're coming on board to support me because of my views of the war in Gaza. And
which are Gordon?
Stop the fighting now. They should have stopped it before it started, but not long after it started. Stop. I mean, the Lib Dem policy is a bilateral ceasefire. I've been saying that long before the politicians in London said it. I've said it from day one. We don't want this massacre. It's so awful. Look, I'm a father and I am a grandfather, and to see babies in body bags is absolutely appalling. And how any human being can inflict that on innocent people is completely beyond anything I can think about. As I said, I'm a Christian, and I can't believe that somebody would take pleasure out of firing £2,000 laser-guided bombs into hospitals where children are being born, children are in incubators. And I say from day one, this should not happen. There should be a negotiated settlement, and it should be done with politicians who get in properly, not supporting. I mean, 2 weeks ago, Joe Biden refused to send £2,000, not in money, in weight, laser-guided bombs to Israel. What are they going to fire them at? Tents? Metal shelters? A £2,000 bomb fired from an F-35 fighter in Blackpool, they could put that rocket right through your window on St Matthew Street. Why did they need things like that? Why do they want to wipe out vast numbers of people? Innocent people. Those people have done nothing wrong. Those children in those body bags that they dragged out of the maternity hospital, dead, what have they done to anybody? So that's my question. That's my question.
Yeah.
That's why I've said stop. And thankfully, the Lib Dems voted for the Scottish nationalist motion to stop the fighting. Unfortunately, Starmer and Sunak are still content to see that. I'm sorry, I'm not.
No, and I think a lot of people will agree with what you've said, Gordon. Thanks for being so honest on that. How do you see it playing out on a national level? I mean, I looked it up. I think the Lib Dems have got 11 MPs. Is the hope to have double that, quadruple that?
They're hoping to get up, as I understand. I mean, they are fighting hard in the south for seats that they've targeted, and what they call the blue wall. they are anticipating getting up to between 65 and 70 seats. I mean, some people do live in fools in cuckoo land, but I think they'll do very well, to be quite honest. I think the Labour Party will win, but I hope they only win with a small majority, because when they have a small majority, they can't run away with crazy ideas. They've got to be held to account. But with the present government is had a majority about 90 when Boris set off, and look what he's done to us. When Boris set off, he had a majority of 90. So nobody could never stop them doing things.
Do you think they'd have a better chance if Boris was the Prime Minister still?
I think I'd consider leaving the country. I think they would. I think the problem with politics is having a leader with charisma. They might talk a load of rubbish and they might promise you things they can't deliver, but they've got charisma. And now we've got 3 leaders, including my own, who are, well, particularly Ed Davey. You wouldn't wish to meet a nicer guy. He's an absolutely fantastic man, but you wouldn't call him full of charisma. Stormer certainly hasn't got no charisma, and the other fellas are those dishwater. So, I mean, but if you get somebody like Boris who'll stand up and tell you that it's raining at the moment, but in 5 minutes it'll stop, and people believe him, then, but that's no good, is it? You can't have a guy that's full of charisma promising the earth. What happened to the £375,000 a week we were going to get for our hospitals? All on the side of a bus. No denying it. It hasn't happened, but people believed him. They promised us the earth if we got out of Europe. Has it happened? No, it hasn't happened at all.
No.
If you have charisma, you can drag. I mean, Farage is the same. He's got charisma. But my God, I would not support somebody like that. But he's got charisma.
Yeah, it's true. It is very often. It's about the personality rather than the politics, isn't it?
I would rather have a dull person delivering for the people of Burnley than somebody with charisma promising you everything and getting you nothing.
I was going to say which category do you fall into, but you're definitely not dull, Gordon.
I wouldn't say I was full of charisma, but I'm not. I have to say I'm not dull. I say what unfortunately, sometimes I get myself in trouble for saying what I believe, but I won't back down. If I believe in it, then I won't back down. See, what really upsets me is when I was shown a few weeks ago a room in a house, and 4 little girls slept in this room, and they couldn't put the beds in because it wasn't big enough. So they had 2 double mattresses on the floor, and the wallpaper was hanging down off the ceiling and swinging up above them. Now, any politician who can go to bed at night and not think about that, then I'm sorry, shouldn't be in the game. Should be thinking of those people. And any politician who closes their eyes at night after seeing children in body bags, I'm absolutely appalled that Stormer and Sunak would do that. Absolutely appalled.
Yeah, I thank you for calling that out, Gordon. Thank you for calling that out, because I have met Keir Starmer, and I asked him to come and see some of the houses and the people that you described, and he said he would try and come, but he's never been. And I do think that these politicians need to see it with their eyes, because if they see it with their eyes, they'll feel it in here, and if they don't, it just becomes a soundbite, something to just you know.
I went to see an elderly lady who we have money in the council. It's called Disabled Adaptation Grants. I think I'm the only councillor that gets involved in it. I went to see an elderly lady who was disabled, and she lived in a terraced house, 2 up, 2 down, and the bathroom was upstairs, and she was struggling to get upstairs. So they gave her the money, £8,000 for a stair lift. When Stanner went in to measure it, they discovered the staircase, because it was an old house, old terraced house, is very narrow. As you know, they are very narrow. And the stair lift wouldn't fit in. They'd have to fit a smaller one. And because of her size, it would be no good for her. She wouldn't be able to fit in it. So I said to her, "How do you get to the toilet?" She said, "I go outside." So she took me outside. And if you want, this is on the television in a couple of days' time, I'll tell you about it. So she took me outside and showed me an outside loo. It had no roof on. It had no lighting. So I said, "What happened?" She said, "Well, I go to the toilet with an umbrella." This is an elderly lady. I go with an umbrella. And she said, "In the winter, it snows on me. in my umbrella. She said, I can't flush the toilet, it's not coupled up. It's a flush toilet, but it's not coupled up. I said, well, how would you get rid of it? She said, there's a bucket of water there. I throw the bucket of water down the toilet and it flushes away. Is that what we want people to live in 2024? Is that what we want to people? And yet we're happy and content to spend £8 million on a fancy road from the town to the turf. That lady, I asked that lady what she thought about that. She said, I've never seen it, but I wish I had a toilet in the house. And that's what keeps me going.
That's very Gordon. That's so moving. It's wrong, isn't it?
Wrong.
And I thank you for calling that out. I thank you for calling that out.
Well, are the others? I mean, I know you've spoken to Oliver Ryan. What's he had to say about the state of housing in Burnley? I mean, I listened to his programme. I would suggest he didn't even know where the street was. Never mind seeing this poor lady's toilet.
Well, thank you, Gordon, for coming on. Thank you for coming on the Godcast. Where can people catch up with you? Can we signpost them to you if they want to speak to you?
I have all this modern stuff now. I have Facebook. What else? Instagram.
Email.
Yeah, email gbirtwistle mp at gbirtwistle mp at gmail.com. What else have we got?
You've got Twitter.
Facebook. Telephone number 07836 364416. I'll always take a phone call, no problem. All
right. Well, Gordon, whatever happens.
All right. I stand in Burnley Town Centre every Saturday morning. It has to be fine though. Now in the old days, I stood there in the wet, but I start going rusty now. So I start every Saturday morning with my campaign stand, where I got 4,000 names on a petition that stated I want to see my GP face to face again. I don't want to be talking to somebody on the telephone. So I'm still there every Saturday morning. I've been for 17 years. So they can come and talk to me there or abuse me. I'm not bothered which.
Gordon, you're a good man, and I appreciate your time. And whatever happens, you know, you've got my utmost respect, and I wish you well for the next few weeks. And thanks for what you're doing to support the people of Burnley. Thanks for coming on the Godcast.
No problem. And if your young people want me to come and talk to them, I will happily come and talk to them. Tell them to ring me.
Thanks, Gordon.
Okay, bye.